It's a time of upheaval in Middle-earth. Some years ago, 9 individuals set forth from Rivendell to destroy the One Ring, a mission which we can now conclude has failed. The Fellowship is broken, most of its members gone missing or killed. The fate of Frodo Baggins is clear, his body found within Mount Doom. It's assumed he was killed by the creature Gollum, and that Gollum once again possesses the One Ring. The fate of Samwise Gamgee remains uncertain. A new darkness has consumed the lands, and our old enemies now move unchecked through our cities and our homes. It's said that there are much older, fouler things rising from the deep places of the earth. Our story begins in the city of Erebor, settled deep within the lonely mountains. Not long ago, the Easterlings claimed Erebor as their own. Here, we see the machinations of the Easterlings begin to unfold. Welcome to the dawn of the Fourth Age. Welcome to Melting Plot, an actual play podcast that features a cast of characters randomly selected from popular fiction. Each season, our heroes attempt to survive an apocalyptic scenario to find out how their characters might handle themselves at the end of the world. If you're new to Melting Plot, I recommend that you start at the beginning of the season so you can experience the story the way the players do. This is Season 2, and Middle-earth is in peril. Frodo was unable to destroy the One Ring, and Sauron's army covered the world in hatred and darkness. What little hope remains is tied to the fate of a few heroes willing to resist. But will it be enough?
A young woman sits in a bedroom, stroking her pet and running a bristly comb through its fur. She's wearing surprisingly plain garments considering her status. The large cat stands up, getting tired of having its fur brushed, and she scruffs between its ears. "I know, Raja," she says. "I'm tired of being confined to this bedroom, too."
You hear a voice from the chamber outside. "Jasmine!" And the door opens. You see a dark-skinned man there. Large. Very broad at the shoulders, dark black hair.
"What is it, Hakim?"
"The Sultan wishes to see you."
"Again?" Ugh. Jasmine rolls her eyes and scruffs Raja between the ears one more time. "Stay here, Raja. I'll be back soon."
He takes you down a long corridor. And Erebor has been built into the Lonely Mountains. So this ancient dwarven structure extends far into the darkness of the mountain itself. You know, somewhere deeper within is mines, deep tunnels that go somewhere into the earth and disappear. The majority of the structure that you use is the main chambers. The Sultan has come to call it his palace. The main chambers are meeting rooms or more pleasant areas to be in than these uncut or unworked stone walls of the mines deeper in. And there are some torches lining the walls and the pillars as you walk through these large chambers. All of the ceilings here are cut so high into the roof of the cavern that you can hardly see them unless you strain your eyes to do so. The palace, as you've come to call it, is where the wealthy people stay. Everyone else has made their lives and their livings outside the mountain, in the fields and the hills beyond. You can see some of that as you walk towards the Sultan's chambers because there are some rough-cut stone windows on the side of the chamber that you're walking through, and you can see out into the fields beyond, a large, sprawling slum. The working class of Erebor, mostly Easterlings, but some from other descents as well. Hakim takes you to the main chamber. It's a large, open room, cylindrical. Across the chamber, you see the large throne that the Sultan, your father, sits in. The throne was built by dwarves, and your father is a short, stout man, so it seems to fit him. But you can see, once again, as you have seen so many times before, there's something not quite right about him. It appears that he's taken ill or sick from some affliction. Standing to his right is a tall man with a long, twisted beard and mustache. On his shoulder is a red bird, maybe a bird of paradise. It looks occasionally sickly, as it does today, like he doesn't take good care of it, or like there's some kind of evil machination going on with its care. Jafar's wearing a long red robe. He's got his customary snake-headed staff at his side, and Iago just is perched on his shoulder, looking back and forth across the room, with eyes that seem too perceptive for a bird.
Father? Jafar?
Jasmine, says the Sultan. Come closer. He waves you forward. You can tell now how unwell he is. And you think that has something to do with why he summoned you here. Jasmine, I'm afraid my prime years are behind me. As you know, the enemies of the realm are constantly pressing in. That's not true. You've never seen any enemies of your realm. And I have no heirs to the throne, Jasmine. You can understand my trouble.
Father, I think you're unwell. We can find you a healer, but you speak as if you're on your deathbed.
Yes. Now you understand. A line of succession, it must be maintained for the good of Erebor. You understand, don't you? He says, and he looks kind of narrowing his eyes, looking deep into you, says, you know what you must do.
Jasmine recognizes what he's talking about, but isn't exactly sure what he has in mind for it. Her mind is definitely set on finding somebody to heal her father, though. And she shakes her head and she says, no, Father, we can find a healer for you. We need to find you a doctor.
My time is up, Jasmine. I can feel it in my bones. You see off to the side. He's got a small table set up, maybe where he eats, but also where he kind of plays at childish games. This is new. This is not the war hero that you knew of your father. This new manner is childish. You can see maybe some wooden cutouts of giraffes or elephants. Something's not right. He's referring to a suitor, one that you have not chosen yet. Jasmine, a suitor must be found.
You know I've been looking, but your health is a higher priority right now.
No, Jasmine. Now he stares off to the other end of the chamber, almost through you. Give me a perception check, please. Difficulty's hard.
Yep. Failure with 2 advantage.
You think you see a slight movement in Jafar, but when you move to regard him, the movement is too subtle and it's gone. But there in the head of his staff, you think you see a faint glow of a light once emanating, but it's now dimmed. But it's gone before you have evidence of it. Jasmine, have you found a suitor?
No, not yet. I've seen many, but I haven't found anybody that I care about yet. Good,
Jasmine. Very good.
Good?
I can think of no better successor to the throne, he says. He looks at Jafar. Than my most trusted advisor.
Father, you can't be serious.
You will wed Jafar.
I don't like Jafar.
My decision has been made.
Father, what has gotten into you?
A deal has already been struck, Jasmine.
Without my input?
For the better of our people.
You look ill. You are sick. You need a doctor. This is not the kind of decision that you would make if you were in your right mind. I don't trust him, Father. I don't want to marry him.
That's enough, Jasmine. A deal has been struck. He just kind of stares off. He's not even looking at you, and you realize maybe through this whole conversation he had never been looking at you.
Jasmine stares at Jafar with just like bitterness and loathing in her gaze. I can't believe this.
Of course you can't believe your good luck, says Jafar. I feel the same way. He smiles this big, toothy, wicked grin.
Jasmine gives a very blatant look of disgust in return. Good luck. This is not good luck. This is disgusting. This is behind my back. This is my freedom being taken away from me. What little of it I had in the first place.
Jasmine, let's leave the Sultan to his troubled mind.
He walks towards you, he kind of as if he's going to take your hand and starts to pull you out of the palace chamber.
Jasmine pulls her hand away, but begrudgingly walks beside him.
Jasmine, this marriage is inevitable. There must be an heir, Jasmine. I fear what your father will do if he thinks you're moving against his will.
My father would never hurt me.
It is in your best interest to comply, Jasmine. The fate of Erebor stands upon a precipice. You must not stand in my way. Not when I am the Sultan and you are insignificant.
Jasmine glares at him almost in, shocked silence. Like she can't think of what to say. She's absolutely, utterly disgusted by the things that he's insinuating. I would rather marry a commoner than you. You're disgusting. You have a terrible influence on my father. You're his right-hand man. You should be finding a doctor for him.
Your father is unwell. He will not recover from this. You know it as well as I do.
I don't know it. There's gotta be more that we can do.
There is nothing more you can do, Jasmine. You must bow to your father's wishes.
My father is ill. I will not bow to his wishes while he's ill. He's out of his right mind.
Then this is insubordination, is it?
Is this how you're going to be when you force me to marry you? My will means nothing?
I will be a benevolent husband. I look forward to our marriage. Good day,
he says, and as you're kind of walking by one of his chambers, he turns off to the side, opens the door, slides inside with this kind of snake-like grace, and shuts the door behind him.
Jasmine lets out a huff of anger and storms off to her own room to find solace with Raja. Jasmine enters her room and slams the door behind her. Raja sits up and perks his ears up. And Jasmine goes over and curls around him. Oh, Raja, it's so unfair. I don't want to marry Jafar. He's terrible.
Raja looks back as if he understands. He's got these eyes that seem more human, less animal.
What am I gonna do? Jafar doesn't seem to care if my father is sick. He just wants him out of the way so he can become Sultan. I need to find a doctor for my father. I think my father could be healed. I at least have to try. Maybe I should leave. But then I'd be leaving my father alone with Jafar. I don't know if I can do that. But if I stay, nothing will change. I can't do anything from here. I can't find a doctor here without Jafar finding out about it. Maybe I could travel away. What do you think, Raja?
Raja looks at you, towards the door leading back into the palace and then out onto your balcony, which is kind of carved out of the side of this mountain. It overlooks the village below, all of the other people who live in Erebor who are now spread out among the fields and hills. Raja walks over to the balcony, puts his front two paws on the balcony and kind of lifts himself up onto it, looks down over the people below, walks back over to you, and sits.
Yeah, I think my father's best chance might be for me to leave and find help elsewhere. I won't find it here.
Raja has this deep kind of low growl. Something you've heard occasionally when he's upset. And you follow his gaze to the balcony. And you see a small red bird. And now you can kind of see Iago in a little bit more clarity with the setting sun kind of casting some light towards him. He's skinnier than he should be. It seems like his feathers are constantly in a state of half molted. His beak is chipped. His head is thin, which makes his eyes look really big. And his neck moves almost without regard to itself. He spins his head like an owl occasionally. Tilts his head to the side. He's looking in through your balcony doors, looking at you.
Jasmine picks up a hand mirror and throws it at the bird.
It cascades across the room, and it... Actually, give me an attack roll. Give me a ranged attack roll.
All right. How far am I? Short range?
Your room's big, medium range. She has such a big room.
She does, it's true.
So we're using the Terranoth rules, which don't differentiate between range light and range heavy anymore. Now there's just one range skill, and the differentiation is in your melee skills. So your melee light and your melee heavy skills. So for this roll, it's just a ranged attack.
Success with 2 threat.
The threat are that you're gonna really piss the bird off, but you hit him, and the mirror kind of hits him solid form, takes him off the balcony, and for a moment you wonder if maybe you killed him until you can see him flying off and maybe back to Jafar's chambers. I'm gonna pocket the threat for a moment because the threat is going to be what Jafar does in retaliation.
Jasmine recovers from her moment of anger and realizes what she's just done. That probably wasn't the best idea, she says, half to herself and half to Raja. It might be a good time to leave now. And she immediately starts packing very few belongings.
Okay, what does she take?
She would take her mother's hairbrush and a few sets of clothes, especially her riding clothes that are probably the plainest looking and the most covering up, and a few pairs of shoes. I imagine she's really not sure what kind of shoes to bring for walking, so she'd bring 3 or 4
I don't
pairs.
even know if she has. Her riding boots are probably the best for walking, and that's probably still
true.
super uncomfortable. So I was going to say, if you pack a lot of things, it's going to take you a while, but that doesn't take you long at all. Your hairbrush you throw into a bag, and without really taking much toll of it, you take a couple of pairs of clothes and throw them in, and whatever shoes are laying about, your riding boots. Do you change your clothes?
No, she would probably throw a riding coat on over it though.
Okay. So you didn't take long enough where you're going to delay. Where do you go?
I don't think she would want to risk going through the palace at this point, especially because once Jafar sets the guards looking for her, they're everywhere. So she would probably try and make her way down the balcony.
Okay. The balcony will descend a small distance down onto the hard rock of the mountainside. She's not high enough up where it's where you're gonna have to scale an entire mountain, but she is high enough up where it's gonna be a challenge.
She has a lot of long drapey curtains. She could tie one to the balcony and slide down it.
That does take more time. So as Jasmine starts to tie these together, throws one end over the balcony and starts to climb down. Just as she's on the other side of the balcony, the railing, Raja looks over the side of the balcony, lays its ears down, its eyes go narrow. Raja's not comfortable with you leaving alone, but Raja can't climb down a cloth rope.
And the cliff is too steep for him to come down.
You can risk it. He'll do it. If you ask him to, Raja will do it. Just then there's a knock at the door.
Jasmine's eyes go wide when she hears that, and she realizes that Raja is now in danger whether he stays or goes. So she whispers up to him as loudly as she can, Raja, come on, follow me.
Raja jumps up onto the balcony, looks down, trying to find its footing, and then he jumps off to a ledge. I need a athletics check for Raja. It could be coordination too if you'd prefer. I think either work for this. And then I will need an athletics check for you climbing down your cloth rope.
We're both gonna die on the way down.
So for Raja, make it average, but throw a setback die in because he's hurried. For you, make it average, but you can grab a boost die because you have your cloth rope.
Okay. Raja first. That's failure.
And for you?
2 success.
So Raja fails and you succeed. So Raja jumps and immediately starts to lose his footing. You can see the platform he lands on starts to come loose, and the gravel and scree starts to slide down the side of the mountain, and Raja can't keep his footing, and he scrambles in this kind of desperate attempt to stop from falling. But you see him slide down the side of the mountain. As he descends down farther and farther, and this kind of dust gets kicked up from his descent, it obscures him, and then when it clears, he's gone. You can't see him at all. He's fallen off of one of the precipices. You climb down yourself, and you make it to the hard rock of the mountain. And for you, it was fairly easy, but once you hit the rock itself and start to descend down the mountain proper, you can hear your door break inward, and Jafar plus a couple of guards scatter about the room, immediately see the cloth rope, and Jafar walks to the edge, and he looks down and he says,
"So that's how it's gonna be then, Jasmine? Traitor? Deserter?"
Jasmine says nothing in response and just keeps going.
"You'll be outcast for this, Jasmine. We will find you."
And he turns back into the room, and you see the cloth of his cloak kind of rise up in this kind of ominous manner. And Iago lands once again on the balcony. Now you're looking at him from the other side of it, kind of staring up into his eyes as he cranes his neck and peers down towards you. He caws, almost in laughter, and you descend the mountain. By the time you're down, it is pure moonlight. There's no more light from the sun setting, and you can hardly see, so it's becoming even slower as you creep downward. As you do so, you're kind of cutting yourself, ripping the clothes that you're wearing. Maybe somewhere along the line, the bag that you're holding rips, and you lose, a pair of your shoes. And by the time you get down to the bottom, you're feeling quite exhausted. There's no sign of Raja.
I mean, the first thing Jasmine would do would be to look for him actively.
Give me a perception check.
Difficulty?
Hard.
+1 because he's my tiger?
Sure. +1. Boost die.
Success.
You find Raja. Raja has been looking for you as well, although he's injured. And you can see this kind of heavy limp. He's favoring his back right leg, and he's looking for you. You would think in any other circumstance he might have just hidden away and tended to his own wounds. But when he sees you, he strains it even more, and he kind of runs up towards you and kind of nuzzles into you, clearly glad to see you. His failure is going to be represented by critical that we're going to roll for Raja. So we rolled 57 for Raja on his critical. That's hamstrung. The target loses their free maneuver until the critical injury is healed. So I should note as well, one of the changes that we made, since now we're not playing zombies, there is no immediate death mechanism here. So to make this feel a little bit more real, we have amended the critical injury table, so it's a little bit more severe than the stock table from the book. All the options are the same, but we have narrowed down the die rolls. So it's more likely to have greater critical injuries, and that's in line with this kind of apocalyptic scenario that we set out for the podcast. So Raja limps towards you. You can tell that Raja is struggling as he walks, but he will continue to move as long as you continue to move. He will not leave your side. It does slow you down, though, if you want to kind of help him out.
For now, she's going to try and make as much distance as she can between herself and the people who will soon be looking for her.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I think she's got blend into the crowd.
Unremarkable?
Yeah. So she's going to do that.
That's automatic. Other characters had an automatic failure to any check made to find or identify you in the crowd. You can see in front of you the large, sprawling slum metropolis of Erebor as it reaches out over the plains. You can see these kind of bespoke shacks that have been built to service homes for the workers, the working class of the city. Some of the buildings are nicer. Some of the buildings have been built to house establishments or businesses, like you see inns or brothels or common houses or bathhouses. But most of the buildings are these kind of makeshift homes. You and your people claimed Erebor some years ago, and you're just now starting to really build up a city here. So what used to be war camps has now started to turn into a bit more of a civilization. As you walk through the streets, pull your cowl high, you realize how absurd this is because Raja's walking pretty close to you, at least keeping an eye out, and Raja can't hide very well among the streets because of his injury, but you make your way through the streets. And luckily for you, it is dark, it is night, and you did fall down the mountain, which makes you look like you belong here.
Would Raja be ruffled up then too? Like dust and dirt all in his
Raja's
fur
a
and
mess.
bloody and
Yeah, Raja's a mess, but Raja's still a big tiger.
Yeah,
so whatever.
Sure. I need to get him like some horse gear or something.
Raja is only silhouette 1.
So Jasmine will try and keep to whatever outskirts and dark alleys that she can and try to have Raja stay close to her, but like in the corner of the alley, or if there's anything that he can sneak behind, have him do that. And she's gonna go as quickly as she can to get out of town.
As you pick your way through the streets, most of the hubbub of the town has died down in the darkness, but there are still a couple of people here and there. An old beggar that's off down an alleyway and kind of notices as you walk by, and he says, "Pretty necklace for a pretty lady." And he holds out this kind of like wooden trinkets that have been like woven through some twine. A little bit later, you see a man who says, "I really could go for some fresh fish." And you pick your way towards the outskirts. The outskirts of the town consist of some fields, some farmland, but they become more and more distant the farther and farther you go. So there's no big wall around the city, and you're able to fairly easily pick your way out, avoiding a couple of guards here and there. Every now and again you look up and you think you see a small red bird, but you can never quite focus enough to determine whether that's Iago or just your fear. You pick your way into the farmland and walk through large mazes of corn, getting as far away as you can from the city. You have a wide open world in front of you. Where are you going?
Jasmine is going to want to go somewhere definitely away from Erebor, and preferably towards places where there's civilization, especially ones that wouldn't necessarily be immediately distrustful of her, where she might be able to find somebody to help her father.
Okay. It's the 4th age of Middle-earth. The 3rd age ended when Frodo failed to destroy the ring. The ring, as far as history knows, was never recovered again, so Sauron does not have it, but his darkness has spread, and there are very few civilizations left. Minas Tirith has fallen. They say now that one of the Nazgul rules over the ruins. Osgiliath has fallen. The Shire now belongs to Saruman. Rivendell is empty. There are very few civilizations left. But, as it is with men, there are pockets of hope here and there. Little civilizations or clusters of people that are still trying to survive. But the world is dangerous. You're much more likely to find a band of orcs or goblins than you are any help out here. Still, there are some places left.
Jasmine would probably have a decent understanding of the map of the world, being royalty and having a decent education. So she probably wouldn't want to try and cross the mountains by herself, but the river Anduin that goes south, she could probably follow that fairly easily by herself, or at least far more easily than crossing mountains. So she'll probably just head towards River Anduin and make her way south from there.
To get to the Anduin, you'll head south out of Erebor, along the east side of Mirkwood, and then cut through the Old Forest Road, which will take you west through Mirkwood and to the Anduin. It's a long journey to take on your own. You and Raja will struggle. A few days go by and you get hungry, realizing you haven't packed any food. Your stomach starts to growl.
Jasmine sits down to take a short rest and hears her stomach gurgling again. She didn't think to bring any food, and she's regretting that decision now. She could have even maybe traded for some before she left town, but she was in such a frantic state of mind trying to get away from Jafar and his guards. She looks at Raja and looks at his injury and shakes her head. And, I wish you were in better condition. I'm so hungry. You don't think you can hunt, can you?
Raja stands up. Raja stretches in that cat manner and then starts moving towards the forest. You're still heading south along the eastern bank of Mirkwood, so the forest is on your right, and he descends into the trees. A couple of hours later, he comes back. You see that wound on his leg is open and now bleeding fairly freely. He has nothing with him. He's unable to hunt in his current condition. He looks so utterly defeated and so sad, like he let you down.
Oh, Raja, I was so worried. It's been a while. Let me try and bandage your wound. And she takes some of the clothing that got torn up on the way down the mountain in the first place, and she tries to just kind of like cover up the bleeding.
Okay, give me a medicine check.
Oh, this is gonna be
you
great.
You have no tools, and what you do have is fairly dirty, so it's going to be 2 additional setback dice, and then it's just a medicine check versus the difficulty.
I feel like I'm probably going to do more harm than good there.
It's possible.
I mean, she's not trying to, like, stitch it up or anything. She's just trying to wrap a bandage around the wound. Okay. She's just trying to stop the bleeding.
Here are your options, then. As a medicine check, you can try to heal wounds and strain, and that would just be a base medicine check. Mm-hmm. Or you can try to... Either way, you're going to have setback dice trying to do something without having the proper equipment. You can also attempt to heal the critical as well, but you only can do it once within a week's time. Although a medicine check you can do basically every encounter as long as the wound is new or something else happens with it. Like, for example, he goes out hunting and kind of reopens it. If you attempt just to heal some wounds, I'll only apply 1 setback die. Or if narratively you just want to wrap something around it to stop bleeding, that's fine too.
That's more what I'm going for. Because I don't feel like she would have any sense of how to do any kind of medicine other than just here's a Band-Aid, basically.
Sure. Later that evening, as we near dusk, you see a small cottage that nestles up against the Seldowin River and kind of right where it meets the edge of Mirkwood. It's kind of hidden slightly back in the forest itself, and you can see some farmland here, very small, enough to feed maybe a small family. So he's got carrots or potatoes growing. You see an apple tree. It's growing near what you assume would be the edge of his property.
Jasmine's eyes light up and she skips up to the tree and plucks an apple off of it and immediately starts chowing down on it.
You hear a voice. I hope you have the coin to pay for that. Raja immediately goes into defensive mode, ears back, starts a low growl until he turns and sees the man that's speaking to you. He's slightly overweight. He's got a big, happy smile on his face. He's dirty, like he's been working the fields for a while. He says, I'm just kidding. Take all you need. Hi, I'm Stilben.
I'm Jasmine, and thank you. I've been really hungry.
Stilben points to the tree and says, well, take more. Take as many as you can eat. What's mine is yours. But I would ask what you're doing out here. It's a dangerous road to travel alone. Although I see you have a protector, he says. And he kneels, like as if he's trying to call Raja over. He kneels. Raja's still maybe short distance from him and looks at you, looks back at the man, clearly kind of disarmed by him, and then slowly pads up to him. The man kind of ruffles Raja's fur, looks back at his leg and says, you've seen some trouble.
Yeah, we didn't want to go on this journey, but my hand has kind of been forced. My father is in trouble, and I'm looking for help for him.
These are tough times. I understand. Well, look. He looks to the sky. Night's come. You don't want to be out on the road in the dark. Why don't you stay the night? I can make you a meal of more than just apples, and you can head out again on the morning to wherever it is that you're going.
South. Not sure where.
If you head too far south, you're in his realm, he says, and he kind of leans in, almost as if he's giving some reverence to the fact that Sauron lives in Mordor, but almost like he doesn't care about me out here alone. Says, be careful on your travels if you're heading that way. But this is talk for another time. Come on. I sense there's rain coming. His house is small. It's like a several-room cabin. Like he's got, the main living area is coupled with the kitchen, and then off to the side he's got a storeroom where he cans maybe jams or preserves, and a small bedroom also, so like maybe a 3-room cabin. It looks like he's built it himself, or that someone has built it themselves, because this isn't a big construction project. In fact, like you can see where he's maybe patched up some holes here or there, or used some wood that maybe wasn't right for the walls, and it's kind of rotted away into a makeshift window. But it has a nice feel. There's a subtle suggestion of incense once burning. And you can smell also whatever it is he's cooking. And I'm not sure if Jasmine's ever seen how food's been prepared before. So he walks over to the fire, got a fire burning in the hearth, something burning very low, likely so that it doesn't create much smoke out of the chimney. So he's kind of slow cooking this, whatever's in this cauldron he's got burning over the fire. He walks over and he starts stirring it. Said your name was Jasmine?
Yes.
Well, Jasmine, take a seat. I've got tea here, and I'm almost done with the stew. I hope you like rabbit, he says, and he continues stirring it.
Would Jasmine have ever had rabbit before?
She's an Easterling, probably.
Yeah, it had just been really fancy rabbit.
Yeah, it's, in fact, she may have had rabbit that she's really excited to have again because she thinks all rabbit tastes like how she's had it. But when he pours it into a bowl and slides it to her, and she realizes it's like water and some rabbit and carrots
beans.
And a lot of root vegetables and no spices. It's clearly not the rabbit she's used to. How long have you been on the road?
A few days, almost a week.
On your own?
With Raja.
I understand the value of companionship, he says. He looks off to his bedroom, suggesting that maybe he once had someone else here with him, but now it's just him. How long do you have yet to go?
Until I find what I'm looking for.
A doctor?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Wherever I can find a doctor. I didn't have enough time to come up with a really good plan.
I understand. It's a shame the elves are gone. You know that all of the elves have traveled west. Whoever's left here, if there are any elves left here, they are rare. You have convinced yourself you'll never actually meet one. And that may be true. There may not be anyone left.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to make do with who I can find.
There's not many places left that I would trust someone like you traveling alone, but if you're heading south, Minas Tirith is gone. Maybe Osgiliath? I heard that was gone too, but there have been rumblings. A ranger group, they say, operates from Osgiliath. I think it's just hope and mirrors, but...
Yeah, I'll see what information I can pick up about wherever I might be able to find some help.
Be careful in Mirkwood. Full of spiders these days, and wolves. I would think that your companion here, what's his name?
Raja?
Raja. I would think Raja would do quite fine against wolves. Were he in better health? Spiders. That's another story.
I tried to bandage his leg so it would stop bleeding, but I don't know anything about fixing it.
Or maybe your doctor can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Maybe.
How's the rabbit?
It's not bad. Considering how hungry I was, I mean, it tastes pretty good right now.
Can I have a deception check?
I'm not sure it would be deception. She was really fucking hungry. It probably tastes really good right now.
Give me a charm check then. It's just versus 1.
Oh wait, I have a frick ton in charm.
She has knack for it in charm too.
Yep. 2 success.
He smiles wide. He looks proud of what he's done. He doesn't know where where you're coming from and what you're used to, but he thinks that this is a good meal, and he thoroughly believes you and is quite happy with how you've taken it.
I feel like Jasmine is like, what's the phrase? Hunger is the greatest spice.
Yeah.
So she's like, the apple was amazing and the rabbit stew is equally on par. It's like the best thing she's ever tasted right now after not having eaten for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And Raja eats feverishly as well. Stillben, after a while, gets up, he stretches, and he says, you're welcome to stay the night. I understand if you have to get back on the road. It's dark out, but I wouldn't pretend to tell you what's best for you. I'm going to retire now.
I appreciate the offer to stay here. I think we might stay the night. It's been kind of cold sleeping out on the road.
He walks to his bedroom. He pulls out maybe a large wool blanket, something very kind of haphazardly created. Yeah, like skin or fur that's kind of been sewn together of maybe many different animals, and it's all like gnarly, but it certainly will keep you warm. He kind of drapes it over the side of a chair. And as the fire starts to just burn out into embers and then go dark, he gives another very wide smile. Good night.
Good night.
And he shuts his door. The morning comes and the sun kind of creeps up, but it's not a bright sun because there are clouds and there is a slight suggestion of rain. And the sun kind of veils the land through the clouds in this eerie, almost dark gray. Stillben's up before you are. He's out in the field working. He's used to those early mornings that maybe Jasmine's not used to. And as you leave the house and he notices you, he comes towards you and says, Jasmine, imagine you're on the road again?
Yeah.
Did you sleep well?
I did. Thank you so much.
Look, I've prepared something for you. He's got a small sack, and he hands it out to you. Inside is 3 apples and 5 coins. I know this won't take you far, but an apple a day, they say. Although, I guess since you're looking for a doctor, he smirks to himself, smiles.
What are these? She asks, holding up a coin.
I'm sure you'll find out. The coins that you have are, they're old. They're from maybe the 3rd age, so they have, like the steward's head on them, or, maybe even some of the newer kings. But you can tell that they're of the 3rd age because now coins are stamped with different sigils. Like you've seen now the new coins have been stamped with what appears to be a large eye, or you've seen like coins stamped with like the head of a Nazgul. But these coins are old and they still have the old kings on them. You see now, just as you start to put the coins back in the bag, a red bird perched on the top of Stillben's house. Looking around, its neck kind of cranes back and forth. It kind of turns upside down almost in an unnatural way.
Jasmine narrows her eyes in almost fury at the bird, at being tailed by Jafar's minion. She doesn't have any way to get rid of it or anything she cares to throw at it at this point. Maybe looks around for a stone on the ground, but doesn't really even want to try and hit it. She, without really thinking, reaches back to scruff between Raja's ears, and
and that low growl emanates again from Raja. His ears go back, his eyes narrow. He's also staring at Iago.
If only you had wings, she says. If we ever catch him, I'll let you eat him.
Stillben looks to you and says, what's the concern?
That bird. I think it's following me, and I don't think it has good intentions.
I doubt it's going to follow you much longer. That doesn't have long for this world.
Yeah, I've been thinking that bird wasn't going to last long for years, though.
You've known this bird?
Yeah.
They say a colorful bird is a good sign.
Not in this case. Can't you see his feathers? They're all turning gray.
Well, I've got some business in the fields.
Thank you so much for your help. You've been more than kind.
You're welcome. Travel safe.
I'll do my best.
Avoid the evil, if you can. Good luck, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Stillben goes back to work. And you head south, once again along the Seldwyn River on your left and the edge of Mirkwood on your right. There is the remnants of a path that maybe Stillben has kind of carved himself, but it soon disappears as you get farther and farther away. A little more than half a day goes by. Travel is fairly easy along the river, and up ahead you see a path that cuts into Mirkwood, and you see a big, heavy wooden sign on a huge post that reads Old Forest Road. It's the road that cuts east-west through Mirkwood. Just as you approach the sign, look down the road into the darkness of the forest, you look back north towards Stillben's house, and you see a large plume of smoke rising from that direction. You wonder if he's cooking again, until you realize Stillben's careful. He keeps the smoke low. His house is on fire. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please share us with your friends. One of the best ways that we can grow the show is through word of mouth. Another great way to support the show is through ratings and reviews. Every 5-star rating and review that we receive helps others to find the show. If you'd like to connect with us, you can shoot us an email at meltingplotpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @plotmelting. All music was written and produced by Zachary James Kolkman. Sound designed by Jeff Henders and Zachary James Kolkman. Jasmine from Aladdin was played by Rachel Kamstra. And I am your host, Jeff Henders. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.